Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to another Brawl Stars video, and today I'm going to be giving a detailed guide on how to use Pam, because she just got a tiny little health buff. People are still saying she's one of the worst brawlers in the game, but I beg to differ. I think there's just a very specific way that you need to use her, and people often completely use her wrong, which makes her, pretty bad. So hopefully after this video, I can teach you guys how to use her right, and hopefully you can start winning a bunch of games with her. So Pam shoots 9 bullets in her attack, each doing 364 damage at power level 9, and so that means if you hit all 9 of those shots, you're doing 3,276 damage with one shot. And right off the bat, that sounds kind of unbelievable. Like, that's the most damage in the game that you can do with one shot. Although it is difficult to hit all the bullets if you're far away against a moving target, and I will explain later in the video how to actually take advantage of the specific shape of Pam's attack to actually hit all those bullets. But then some other stats, Pam is actually pretty tanky. She has at max 6,720 health. You know, you can't be that thick with a low amount of health. Her reload is 1.3 seconds, which actually isn't too bad given that her main drawback is her attack speed, which is almost a full second. It's about 0.9 seconds, so it's super slow to get all 3 of your shots off. And I'll come back to this later as well to tell you how you can sort of work around this drawback. So in terms of general strategies for using Pam, she basically doubles as a ranged brawler and a close-up melee brawler. You can definitely pester your opponents as they're trying to run away because you do have a decent bit of range, but also if you can get close up to things, you do the most damage in the game. So that's also something you want to take advantage of in certain matches. But you also don't want to play very aggressively with Pam. What I see so many people doing is being like, oh, she has a ton of health and she does a ton of damage, I'm just gonna walk up on other people like Bull or Shelly and just start dealing a lot of damage. But that's not how she works. Because she unloads her attacks very slowly, it is very hard to win a one-on-one with other brawlers at a close range. Now, for certain brawlers, you can definitely do that, like Jessie or Penny, or just basically any low health brawlers. It's definitely a smart idea to go in close on them and just use all your attacks. But there are definitely many situations when you want to keep your distance. So don't think of Pam as a melee brawler in the sense that Bull or Shelly or Daryl is, but think of her as sometimes being a ranged brawler and sometimes when the time is right, going in and dealing that high damage. And along those lines, make sure you manually aim your attacks most of the time because it takes so long to unload your shots. If you're up close on someone and they quickly pass through you, you're going to need to start attacking in the opposite direction. But if you're auto aiming, it's not going to take that into consideration and you're going to completely miss an entire shot, and that's like a full second of dealing damage that you're missing, in which case your opponent will probably completely wipe you out in that time. So I strongly recommend getting used to manually aiming with Pam pretty much all the time, except for like boxes and showdown and stuff like that. As for Pam's super, obviously you can throw it behind a wall or something so that way your opponents can't get to it, and then you're providing a bunch of healing for a long time to your team, and that's always a very good asset to have. But another use for this turret is you can always just throw it in front of you to sort of act as a tank. So if a Bull or a Daryl charges up on you on showdown, just throw it right in front of you, and because they're probably auto-aiming like the noobs they are, it's just gonna go right into your turret rather than into you, and then they'll be out of attacks. And then you come back at them, dealing the 3,276 damage per attack, and wipe them out. I've done this so many times. It's a very good strategy. And then in terms of star powers, Mama Squeeze is going to be very good for area control modes, because that is the one where it deals damage to your opponents when they are inside your healing turret range. So things like Gem Grab, Hot Zone, if it wasn't very sadly removed from the game, those are going to be great for this star power because people are going to have to take control of a certain area, and if they're taking damage while they're in that area, it's very difficult for them to do so. And a lot of times people don't even realize they're taking damage when they're in your range because you're attacking them at the same time, so they could be taking extra damage without even realizing it and stay in your healing turret for a lot longer. And then Mama's Hug is a lot better in pretty much all the other modes, just gives that extra additional healing to your teammates. Always good in a bunch of different situations. Now let's talk about what I was mentioning in the beginning about how to actually optimize the way you attack in order to get the maximum possible bullets, the maximum possible damage, basically how to get good with Pam. So to explain this better, I created a quick diagram representing the way in which Pam actually attacks. So from this image, I managed to measure that her attack spreads over about 35 degrees of range. And then I measured the length of a single bolt and the length of her entire attack, and it turns out that one bolt is about 1/11 of the maximum width of that little sector that she attacks in. And her bolts essentially follow 3 specified paths. One path is straightforward, and then there's one to the left and one to the right, and all the bullets are going to follow along those 3 paths. And so I modeled those paths along with all the other information I gathered into this diagram right here. And that yellow circle there is actually to scale a size of the hitbox of any enemy, or opponent. So it is important to note that sometimes you can completely miss your opponents even if they are within the range of your attack. And then I also mapped where each of the bolts are going to be located on this diagram as well, although this isn't entirely accurate because not all 9 bolts are going to be in play at once. Like the first couple bolts are either going to hit a wall, hit the ground, or hit an opponent before the last one is fired. So this is sort of a compressed version of where the bullets are going, but you can still see the overall pattern. They sort of form a zigzag, starting and ending with the center, which means that out of the 9 bullets Pam is shooting, 5 of them are going to be in the center, 2 are going to be in the left, and 2 are going to be on the right. So that basically means you always want to attack people with the goal of hitting them right in the center, because if you hit them in the center, you're going to be dealing 5 bullets worth of damage, which is pretty significant. But if you're only hitting them on the edge, you're only going to be dealing 2 bullets of damage each, and that's when Pam starts to seem as if she's not really that good. So even though her range is pretty large, you definitely want to focus hard when you are aiming, because you really want to hit your opponents in the center and go in the same direction as them, so that way all the bullets in that center path will hit them if possible. And then of course for things with large hitboxes like the boss in Boss Fight or Showdown, or even the heist in Safe or the Ike turret in Siege, you definitely don't want to auto aim your attack because that will make only the center lane hit. But because the hitbox is so big, you can actually get 2 of these lanes to hit at once. So you want to aim slightly off center in between the center lane and either the left or the right lane, so that way both the center and the right lane or the center and the left lane will hit that large hitbox thing at the exact same time. And that way you can guarantee 7 bullets of damage off, which is almost all of the possible damage that Pam can deal. And that's when Pam starts becoming really good, because she can output so much damage consistently. And it's these little nuances that people miss, which is why they think that Pam isn't as good as she actually is. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and a comment down below if you did. And please subscribe if you want to see more brawler guides like this. But that's all for today, guys. So see you later.